Hi, I'm Lee at Iridium. Hope you're doing all right today. It's album review time. So we've got another release from Frontiers, and a big shout out from me to Frontiers for sending me these releases early. It just means so much. It really does, and I get to put my view across of these great albums that are going to be, I'm sure there's going to be lots of them this year from Frontiers. So I really appreciate everything they do for me. January the 21st, this album's coming out. It's the fifth album from Giant, and it's called Shift in Time. Now, I was having a look at a little bit of the history of Giant before I did this video, and obviously they had big gaps in their history of releasing albums, a few lineup changes and stuff. And I sort of realised that, you know, the fans of Giant really think highly of the past records, which is cool. You know, there's especially the first album, which is Last of the Runaways. You hear so much about that album. It's always at the top of people's polls when they talk about great 80s albums or whatever, you know, across AOR albums or anything. I really do see love for that album and that period in the band's history. And that's cool, because with every band that we love, there's always albums that we love more or musicians that we love more. But I haven't got a big history with Giant, so I'm just looking at this album as it is. There's 12 tracks, 48 minutes long. So let me talk you through the members of the band first. You got John Roth on the guitar. He's done some work with Starship and Winger. He's a great guitarist, man. He's so busy throughout this album, does some amazing guitar work, and what he's really good at, he's good at doing every different type of melodic rock. So you've got the heavier stuff, the riffy stuff, and he's got some amazing intricate playing he does as well. He's really subtle as well with a lot of his playing. Absolutely love his guitar work throughout this album. You've got Mike Brignadello on the bass and David Huff on the drums. Now, these two are original members of the band, I believe. The only two left in the band original. But they're, you know, they're just brilliant. I always say, if melodic hard rock or melodic rock or AOR, you just need some tight rhythm section there to let everyone breathe in the band, and that's just exactly what they do. They do an amazing job. And of course, Kent Hilly on the vocals, the new vocalist, great AOR singer, the perfect plan, does a lot of solo stuff as well. An amazing singer, and this is Kent's dream, I believe, to front this band. It's his favourite band, I think, of AOR. So imagine that. Imagine like a band being your favourite band you get to sing from. That's just dream stuff. That's just absolutely amazing. I'm so chuffed for him, because he deserves everything he gets. He's a brilliant vocalist, and it just suits this band totally. So, talk about the Giant fans a little bit. So obviously, Dan Huff, who isn't in the band anymore, although he guests on one of the songs here, he was the guitar and vocalist, I think, on Last of the Runaways. And I had to listen to Last of the Runaways. I said I haven't got a big history with Giant, but I did go back and listen before I listened to this album. And I love the album. And I've only listened to it once, and I can see why people got so much love for it. It is pure melodic rock, AOR at its best. Just typifies some of those great albums that came out in the late 80s. But I haven't got, you know, I haven't got a connection with the album like fans have. Like Giant fans have. So I can sort of understand, though, because I've got the same thing with other bands and albums that I get a connection with growing up and listening to. And I can sort of understand with the first single, which I love, by the way, Let Our Love Win. I can understand that didn't have the sort of feel that the original band had in Last of the Runaways. You know, if people were looking for that sort of feel of the band, I can understand where that single itself was a little bit far removed from the Giant sound in general. But saying that, there's so much on this album that does reflect the classic band, and nearly all of it does, to tell you the truth. I think it really reflects it brilliantly. And I don't think Giant fans will be disappointed in this album whatsoever. I think they're going to fucking love this, and it'll be one of their favourite Giant albums. That's in my opinion. This really stands well against that debut album for me. It's mixed and mastered as well by Del Vecchio. I think he's had some of the songwriting, not a lot, I think he's been involved in. The band themselves obviously have been involved in all the songwriting. Kent Hilly has. So that's cool, because bringing his own touch. And I think what he's done, he's really, whatever songs he's been involved with, I'm not sure which ones they are in particular, but whatever it is, it sounds different than Perfect Plan. It sounds different than his solo stuff. This sounds like Giant to me. Although I haven't heard a lot of it, it fits right in, like I said, with that Last of the Runaways album for me. I'm not saying it's better, because I wouldn't want to upset any fans, but all I'm saying is it's fucking great, this album. So, also Christian Fair, man, Seventh Crystal lead singer, Perpetuetude lead singer, is also handling the songwriting. He's a talented guy, and people are starting to use him for songwriting purposes, and no wonder. He's an amazing songwriter. So, I have said, and I'll keep saying this until everyone's used to it, I won't be running through every track. I'm going to run through my favourites, and there's lots of them on this album. So you got, after a little intro, it goes into Let Our Love Win. This was the first single I was talking about. Caused a bit of controversy. Looking at comments on YouTube, fans of Giant weren't happy. And I can understand why they weren't happy, because it sounded a little bit veered away from the Giant sound that people loved, I think. But as a song itself, it was a great rocking track that I think that's a good statement to bring a rocking track out, first of all, to say we're going to rock out as well on this album. Like I said, though, no fear, Giant fans. There's plenty to love on here from that classic sound that you love. Never Die Young. Now, this was the second single. And this had a great reaction from Giant fans. This is like a bit of the opposite of the first single, and I can understand that as well. This features Dan Huff on the guitar as well, so the original member that people really miss in the band. Some great classic rock riffs in this track, especially coming out of that huge chorus. I love this track. Don't Say a Word is a brilliant medium paced track. I think Giant fans are really going to lap this one up. It's sort of, for me, the one that at the moment, when you listen to this album in order, obviously, this will be like the first one you hear, and it'll really give you those feels of the debut. AOR, brilliant crafted track. Highway of Life is another one I want to talk about. Another great AOR track, uplifting stuff here. There's a bit of a mix of sort of bluesy-ish riffs, but a pure AOR chorus. Great stuff indeed. I want to talk about a couple of ballads on the album. It's Not Over and Anna Lee, both brilliant ballads. It's sort of, they're beautifully constructed with acoustic guitar, amazing vocal harmonising on both, some brilliant melodies. Classic AOR ballads. Now I wanted to talk about them together because they're just both brilliant, as good as each other. You Giant fans are going to love these. Don't Want to Lose You is another track that just is outstanding. The last two on this album are probably my favourite tracks, actually. So Don't Want to Lose You, a brilliant chuggy melodic rock track. Some great simple guitar melodies really bring that late 80s feel to this track. One of the highlights on the album for sure. And then we end the album with an absolutely outstanding track called I Walk Alone. I'd say this is a ballad, but it's got a real sort of dark feel to it. A great haunting track that could maybe pass, it definitely passes the heaviest ballad on the album if you'd call this a ballad, and I probably would. Hilly is absolutely amazing here, as he is throughout, but the emotion he conveys here in this track is just outstanding. One of the best melodic rock AOR singers out there today, Hilly. He really is. And I think he's a great addition to Giant. That song, I Walk Alone, is the perfect closer to this album. So, I don't know. The thing is, sometimes with fans, and I'm not saying Giant fans, you know, so I've got my tea here. I'm talking, we all have bands, don't we? Whether it's Iron Maiden, you know, and people like latch on to the Paul Di'Anno period, or, you know, and it's like you can't, you know, it's just a sense of sort of opinion, if anything. If you love it, don't you? But what some fans don't do is give bands a chance with their new members, and they really do. Giant fans, like I said, I'm not an expert on what they're like. But they really do need to give this album a listen. If they've heard the first song and thought, well, that doesn't sound like Giant, I'm not going to give them a chance, they'll be idiots to themselves, because they need to give the rest of this album a chance. I feel real similarities, and you know, that feel of Last of the Runaways, I really feel it throughout 80% of this album. And there's a couple of rocking tracks that, you know, maybe feel a little bit more out of place for a Giant song, especially the first single, what I was talking about. But there's so much to love here for the Giant fans, and you get a bit of rocking out as well. Man, great album, absolutely outstanding. Like I said, On Frontiers, January the 21st, Giant, Shifting Time. Highly recommended, guys. What a start to the year. I'll see you next time.